Hey YouTube, it's your girl Kat. I'm back again with another video today. And today I'm going to share with you why I never had any more children. And that is right, I am a single woman with no children except for my daughter. So, let me get into my intro so that I can introduce myself a little bit. My name is Kat. I am a 47-year-old birth mom, and I have been in reunion for 3.5 years with my 31-year-old daughter. So, the reason why I never had any children. So, after I gave birth to her, I was completely depressed. I went on the pill till I was about 18 so that I wouldn't get pregnant again. And then when I was about 18, I went on Norplant, which is like today, the equivalent today is Nexplanon. And I had that until I was about 20. It was supposed to be for 5 years, but I had it taken out a couple years later. And I'm glad I did, because the scar tissue that developed on that sucker, that was hard for them to get out. So I was kind of like the experimental guinea pig on that one, I guess, because they have since changed the name. So I went on birth control so I wouldn't get pregnant again, mainly because of that nurse. I don't know. I know I mentioned it in one video. I don't remember which one. I haven't told you my whole story yet, so I'll work on that soon, I promise. But there was a nurse when I was, I think, in labor, that she was like, oh, you're only 15, you'll have another one by the time you're 18. So, and she also said something along the lines of, you're just going to be a statistic. So I was like, well, I don't want to be that. So I went on birth control. So from the time I was like 23 until like 40, I had 3 major boyfriends. I never ended up marrying because, again, that's trauma response. I always picked the wrong men, so none of them were marriage material, but that's another video. So I had 3 major boyfriends who I was with for significant periods of time. So I had my first boyfriend, who I ended up actually buying my house with, and I say with because we were together, but it was my money and my credit and all my doing, so I bought my house when we were together. He had 4 kids, and, at this point I was off birth control, and we were not using any type of birth control or anything, and, he had 4 kids already, and I still couldn't get pregnant. I half-heartedly tried. I half-heartedly, gave it an effort, but it wasn't something that I really wanted with him, just because I was happy, but I wasn't. He wasn't my dream guy. And then having the kids, I never minded people having kids. Like, it doesn't matter, that he had 4 kids. But I remember one day my mother calling, and I was laying in bed, and she said something to me along the lines of, when are you going to give me a grandchild already? And I was just really taken aback, like, never. Because I didn't really technically want one. And I'll get into that after I go through all my boyfriends and not being able to, the physical side of it. But that really took me aback when my mom called and said that, because I was like, well, you had one. You had a grandchild, and I don't have her anymore. It gave me some anxiety and some depression, because it triggered feelings of, her and missing her, and that amputating feeling, like there was just that that hole, that I couldn't fix without her. Then I got together with another guy who also had 4 children, and that didn't work out. He was bad news. um just no birth control, no, not trying, but not trying. It was just, so I didn't get pregnant with him. And then I had another boyfriend. He had 2 children. And then I went back to the other one that was, and this is years gap, like there was like a 9-year gap. And then I went back to the second one who had 4 children, still didn't get pregnant. And no birth control, no nothing. So it wasn't them, it was me. So physically, and I never went to the doctor for it, because of the fact that mentally I didn't really want a child, if that makes sense. Like I didn't have, my period my whole entire life was normal. I got it every month, generally at the same time. It wasn't like painful, like excruciatingly painful. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't light. I was the normalist of the norm. So I never equated not getting pregnant with something medically wrong with me. Okay. So I never went to the doctor for it. And when I went to the gyno, they would ask me any questions, and I don't have any pain. Like, there was nothing wrong with me. And I didn't say, hey, I've been having unprotected sex with my boyfriends, but I'm not getting pregnant. I didn't say that, because I really didn't want a baby. So at this point in my life, I'm 47. Number one, I can't, because I've actually had some medical procedures that now I can't. And at 47, I don't want to. Good God, if I had a baby right now, and then 20 years from now it's graduating from high school, so I'd be 67, hell no. Thank you. I am good in the baby department. And I'm not sad about it at all. So what I ended up finding out in reunion is that 40 to 60% of birth moms, and I've read more towards 40%, but when I was doing research for this video, it did come up as up to 60%. But I've heard more of 40% of birth mothers experience secondary infertility, where you physically can't have children anymore. You are now infertile. So I was like, great, well, that's me. Secondary infertility, that's what I got, because I never had another baby, never got pregnant, nothing. So that was the physical side of it. So when I was younger, it's not that I was more of a churchgoer or anything, because I'm not a religious person, but I was more religious in the fact that I thought about God more as the mainstream type of God, with sinning and everything like that. Now, so I'm much more spiritual, and I don't believe that you sin or anything like that. I think well, it doesn't matter what I think, but but back then I was much more aware of God as in the church sense, like what the Bible spoke about. So one part of it mentally was that I kept thinking that um, I sinned and I shamed my family, and therefore God was punishing me by not allowing me to get pregnant again. And that was one thing that I thought of. That it was my own fault. Like this, I did this to myself. Like I'm a disgusting person, and I don't deserve a child. So I thought about this a lot, and I I don't think about it anymore. It's not one of the most prevalent things is, but the biggest reason that I always thought of, and I still do, um, is that if I had had another baby and kept it, that I would be betraying my daughter, and I couldn't do that. I could I just thinking about having a baby or getting pregnant, I felt horrible. I felt like a horrible person to even think that, hey, I want to have another baby. I just felt like that was such a betrayal to her, because I said to myself, if I couldn't stand up and fight for her and I couldn't take care of her, why should I take care of another baby and love that baby? How could I love another baby when I gave my first one away? And that, from the time I was 15 years old up until now, I still feel that way. I felt like it would have been such a betrayal to her. I couldn't do that. And I am not putting down anybody who had children afterwards. This is not my thinking there. But there have been other people that have felt the same way as me as well. They in birth mom groups, I've heard it and everything, that you just can't bring yourself to have another baby. There's an immense feeling of guilt that you have when you give a child away, and then my thing was, how could I have another one? I couldn't do that to her. I just felt so, that would be so wrong. So, and again, it's nothing against people who have had other children. You're lucky. I kind of wish I did. I kind of do, but for the most part, I don't, and it didn't work out that way anyways for me, because, as much sex as I had, you know, it never happened. It never happened. So there's a reason for that. So it is what it is. But that was my biggest reason for not having another child, because I didn't want to betray my daughter. As simple as that. So, and honestly, I think that if I did have other children, our relationship would be different. Because then there's that added layer that I've heard other adoptees and birth moms speak about, is when you give your child away and you keep other ones, the adoptee has the feeling of, well, why were they good enough to keep but I wasn't? Regardless of if they're happy or not, and regardless if you're in a good reunion or not, like, there could always be that underlying feeling. So I think that our relationship would be different if I had a child, or children that I had kept. But again, it's kind of like another, like, what if type of thing. So it doesn't really, it's a moot point because it doesn't really have any bearings. But still, a lot of other birth moms did go on to have other children, so they have siblings out there and everything like that. One other thing that bothers me a tiny little bit is that I feel like me not having any other children puts pressure on her to have a good reunion. Like, and I never want her to feel that way. And I don't know if she does. Like, this is just me thinking that, hey, I really hope she doesn't feel this way. Like, I'm thinking, like, okay, I don't want her to feel like she needs to be a certain way with me, that she needs to agree with me and go on vacations with me and go on lunch dates with me and everything. I really don't want her to feel that there's any pressure on her to be in this reunion with me and in a happy reunion. And I don't think she does, but still, I'm just saying that, that's one of my fears a little bit, is that maybe down the road, what if she gets a feeling of, oh, I need space or anything, but then she thinks, well, I'm her only kid. How can I pull away from her? Like, I don't want her to feel that way. And I don't want her to be like, well, let me, because that's what I did my whole entire life, is I people pleased. I don't want her to people please me or feel this way at the risk of her own mental health, if that makes sense. So with all that being said, and without going too much into her story and everything, I don't feel horribly guilty for not having any children and giving her any siblings, any biological siblings, because she did grow up with 2 sisters. So she has 2 adopted sisters, and, they are a family unit. So she had that sibling, relationship growing up. She had, she didn't grow up as an only child or anything. She also has 3 siblings on her father's side, which are young. They are, I think, like somewhere between 6 and 16. There's 3 of them. I know she hasn't met them yet. We don't know when she's going to meet them, because her father is not a great communicator. So they actually don't know about her. And I'm hoping one day that she does get to meet them, just because those are, biologically your siblings, and you're related to them. So I'm hoping that he comes around one day and tells his wife. And I could care less about his story. I will tell you everything about him. But that's a sore subject for another video. But then it gives me another what if. If I had kept her, would I have gone on to have other children? Would I have had secondary infertility? Which actually I think is very common in even people who keep their children. But, would I have had secondary infertility? Or would she have been an only child still? Would I have been happy enough to have another child? And then I could give her, because I think at one point, I said to her, because I didn't have any other children, I would have raised you as an only child. But that's not actually the case. What if I was, mentally okay? Because honestly, I honestly feel like the psychological impact of the adoption really stunted my ability to have more children. So, what if? What if I was able to have more children and go forward? Then she could have had more siblings. Maybe not full biological, but they would have been half. Because I certainly wasn't getting back together again with him. See, so there's that other what if there. It's still there. The what ifs, like, what if I had had another kid? What if I had kept her and I would have been able to have more kids? So, I mean, it is what it is. And at this point, I'm really not unhappy not having any children. I've come to terms with it. I'm okay with it. I have her back in my life. She shares her granddaughter with me, and I get to see her grow up. I have my little niece, which, she's a little bit far removed at this point since I'm estranged from her mother. But, it's okay. Like, I'm okay. I'm okay not having kids. And, at this point, I just kind of feel like maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe I wasn't meant to be. I was supposed to be a cat mom. You see? You see how spoiled he is? So, maybe that's it. But I don't harp on it. I'm not sad about it. It's not a huge deterrent in my life or anything. So, it is what it is. And that's pretty much it for today, YouTube. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you could. And, come back again in a couple days. I'm uploading twice a week now on Sundays and Wednesdays. So please look forward to my videos and please share and get the word out. A lot of birth moms need this information, okay? I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, YouTube. Bye-bye.